Okay guys, so welcome to another exciting video from PyCoders Academy with me, Faisal from PyCoders Academy. Okay, so in our previous video we looked at the radio button, the check button, and we ended with the message box widget. Okay, so these three widgets were what we did in our previous video. But in today's video we'll be looking at the list box and the scroll bar as well. So we are looking at the list box and the scroll bar, so we are putting it together. Okay, so these two are actually important when we have a list and we want to, let's say, scroll it down or scroll it up and so on. Those scroll effects, when you want to add those scroll effects, you actually apply the list box and the scroll bar. Okay, so that's what we'll be doing in this video. Okay, so just as like we do always, we just import our Tkinter. So from Tkinter import star. Okay, now we just name our app to be app. Okay, then tk parenthesis. Okay, so simple. Okay, now we close our main loop. So app.main loop function. Okay, so now we just create a variable to contain our widget. So I would name it to be lst box so that it will match what we are doing, which is the list box. So list box, then I will say passing the parent inside, which is the master. Okay, so it should be app. Okay, so let's leave it like that. There are actually a lot of options, as we know, bd, which is the border, bg, which is the background, and so on. So we actually skip that one and we will go into it shortly. Okay, so we just do list box, then I will say pack. Okay, so yeah, pack. Now let me create a frame to contain my list I will be using. So I will just do frame being equal to frame. Okay, then I will say app. Okay, instead of passing the app here, I'll pass the frame here. Okay, now this side should be, let's say, left. Okay, so that's the let's say the position we are playing. So I will also pass the frame to be at the top. So frame dot pack, then I will say side being equal to top. Okay, so let's run this and see what we are having now. So let's run this. Okay, so actually let me specify a geometry here so that we will actually see it a bigger picture or something. So geometry, and I will say 400 by 400. Okay, so let's go again, run. Okay, so as you can see, I have an empty box here. So this actually like a box, so the name suggests that it's list box, so a list in a box. So this the box, since there are no like list here, so we just ignore anything we see there. Okay, so now we go to the options we need to pass. So there is, let's say, a method. So there is a method called the insert method. So that's what we'll be doing to, let's say, or that's what we'll be using to add the list. Okay, so we just do it quickly. So it's very simple. We just do what the variable name is for the list box widget. We just do lst box, then I will say dot insert. Okay, so this dot insert is actually, let's say, a method for the list box, which actually contains the first parameter being the self. So as you can see here, I have the self, then the index and element. Okay, so for every function we have the self being the first parameter, so we won't pass the self here since it is already in a class, which is the lst box. Okay, so we'll go to the second method. So the second parameter is actually the index parameter. So the index parameter is where you are actually placing your element. Okay, so let's say I want to place it at the first index, so I'll just do one. Then let's say my element will be Python. Okay, so Python. Now I'll go to the second one, so list box, then I'll say dot insert, then I'll say my index should be 2, then I'll say JavaScript. Okay, then the next should be, let's say, CSS. Okay, so dot insect 3, then I'll say CSS. Okay, so simple. Now these are the items we want to add to our list box. So let's actually run this and see what we are getting. So run. Okay, so as you can see, I'm getting 3 items in my list box, which is the Python, you have the JavaScript, you have the CSS. So these 3 are my items I'm adding to my list box. Okay, so simple. So you can actually add more items. So let's actually add more items to fill it up. So I'll just add here. So C, okay. Control V. Okay, so let's make it a whole lot of list. Okay, so I'll just add another 3. Okay, so now let's name it. Okay, so 4, 5. Okay, 5, 6, 7. Then go to 8, then 9, then 10, then 11. Okay, so let me scroll it, come down. Okay, so 11 here, then we will have 12 here, then a 13 there, then a 14, then last should be 15. Okay, so 15. Okay, so we will need to change the elements we are adding so that we can see some distinction here. So here I'll add Java here, Java. I'll add Go. I'll add Ruby. I'll add C here. I'll add C++ here, C++. I'll add C hash. I'll also, let me see, I'll add let me say static. Then I'll add let me see. So we are just adding anything so you can cook something up. So here should be item 1, item 2. Okay, item 2. Then we go to item 3 here, item 3. Okay, then item 4, then item 5. Okay, so now let's actually run this code again. So run. So as you can see, there are like what we have written, then some are actually at the bottom but it's not showing since the list box is actually not that long for all the items. Okay, so we actually create a scroll bar, as we said, to actually control this list box. Okay, so I want to go to the, let's say, the current index I give. So I use a method called the C method. So let me specify it here. So we just do list. So let's say I want to create a button here. Now this button will actually head me to, let's say, the index I want to go. So I will just do button. Okay, so button, then I'll pass. So remember we are using a frame, so frame, then I will say command should be something like a command should be current location. So current location. Okay, so we quickly create another function here. So function being equal to current location. Okay, so def can, okay, so we have it now. So that's why PyCharm is actually loving, and so you can actually start using PyCharm if you actually don't know how to use it, or you actually don't have any editor to do this for you. Okay, so simple. Now what we will pass here won't be any argument, so we just clear this one, then we actually close this. Okay, So now we have our current location function. What we want to do is go to the current index. Okay, so the current index we want to go to, maybe let's say index 14, which is the item 4 here. So here should be listbox. So that's the variable name dot. Then I'll say c. So that's the method. Then I'll pass the index here. So index I'm passing should be 14. Okay, so simple. Now I'll run this code again, and when I click the button, I should see our item 4. Okay, so let's go again. So okay, we haven't actually positioned our button. So button dot. Then I'll say pack, but I'll put it at the button. So button. Okay, now let's go again. Okay, so you can see it at the bottom, but I'll just add a text. So text is let's say text being equal to, then I will say current location, current location. Okay, now I have to add a comma here. Okay, so good to go. Now let's run this code and see. Okay, so we have our current location here. So when I click this, so you can see I'm seeing the item 4 here. So let me close again and try again. Okay, so you can see there is no item 4 here. So I will click this, so you can see item 4 is now displaying. So when you want to actually go to a specific location in your list box, you just use the .c method we are using now. Okay, so we have actually created our list box, and we have prepared it for our scroll bar to come. So let's see how we can integrate our scroll bar inside this list box. Okay, so just like what we did for the buttons and so on, the options for the list box is actually the same. So we have the BD, which is the border, we have the BG, we have the FG, and so on. So you can check for it like online, since you know how to pass options and so on. But there are two specific options I would like to talk about here, which is the X scroll command and the Y scroll command. So these commands will be very effective when you want to add your scroll bar. So quickly, let's see how we can create a simple scroll bar here. So scroll bar is very simple. We just create our variable here. So scroll, then I'll say being equal to. Now every widget, as I say, always starts with a capital. So scroll bar. Okay, so that's our scroll bar here. Now we will pass our, let's say, master. So here we are using a frame, so I'll pass frame here. Okay, so simple. Now like that's what we are doing now. Now what we would like to do is we would like to pack it. So we just do scroll, then I'll say dot pack. Okay, now what I'll do again is side should be, let's say, left. Oh no, sorry, we want to place it at the right position, so the side should be right. So right, then I will say fill it to, let's say you fill it in the Y direction or the X direction. So here we want to scroll down, so we would like to go from the top to the bottom, which is the Y direction, so we pass just Y here. So we are done. So this is how to pack the scroll bar here, but we are not done, so we have to pass it let's say in our list box. So let's run this and see what we are getting for now. So as you can see, we have our scroll bar here. So since we added right here, we are getting it at the right side. When we added fill, which is the Y direction, so we are getting it at the Y direction. When we change this to X, we are getting at this direction, the horizontal direction. Okay, so that's why we are actually passing it as side right and fill Y. Okay, so simple. Now when I move this, I'm not seeing anything because we haven't added it to the list box. so we have to add it to the list box so that it will be controlling the list box here. Okay, so how will we do it? It's very simple, very simple. Now we have to know how we can do it. So there is a method inside the scroll bar which is called the set to, so the set is actually used to let's say integrate it to the, you want to, if you want to integrate your scroll bar into the list box, you use the dot set in the scroll bar. Okay, so simple. Now here, as I mentioned, we have two options for the list box, so let me list it here. We have the x scroll command, s scroll command. Okay, now, and we have the y scroll command. Okay, so when you are scrolling from the, let's say, use at the y direction, or when you are scrolling in the y direction, you use the y scroll command, and when you are scrolling in the x direction, you use the s scroll command. So that's the two options that we'll be looking at in this video. Very important let's say options. So we will pass the y scroll command here for now. So I'll just do y scroll command. Okay, now the y scroll command will be equal to the scroll dot, then I will say set. Okay, so this is the set method I was talking about. So the set method will actually set your scroll bar to the list box. Okay, so that's why we are passing the y scroll command scroll dot set. Okay, so simple. Now our last thing we'll be doing here is, let's say, trying to, let's say, bring a command, or trying to link it, let's say trying to link the list inside the list box. So when we actually add the y scroll command, it won't do anything very effective here. So as you can see, it's actually working with the list box but not controlling the list. So first, when this was not there, you can see this very big. So let me remove this and see what we are getting. So previously, this is what we should get. Okay, so let me run this. Okay, so you can see it's very small here. It's a very small width because it actually hasn't recognized this list box yet. Yeah, so let's see how it will recognize it. So I'll just do run. So I'll just bring this again. Okay, so you can see y scroll command scroll dot set. Okay, so now it will recognize it, and so you can see it's actually taking the height of the list box, so it has become bigger now. Okay, so let's configure our scroll bar to our list box. Okay, so you just do, so it's pretty simple. You have to just do my, so sorry, here should be, let me see how I name our widget here. So the scroll widget is the scroll here, so I'll just do listbox dot, oh scroll dot config. Okay, so that's the method we will actually use to configure our scroll bar. So we are using two options here for the scroll, which are, so we have scroll, then we have set. Okay, so let me go over it again. So the set is used to actually, let's say, work or integrate your scroll bar to the list box. So that's the set method. So this set method, so that's what we used here, which is the scroll dot set here. Okay, but when you want to configure your scroll bar to the list box, you just use the config. Sorry, here should be config. So you use the config method to configure your scroll bar to your list box. Okay, so that's what we actually want to use here. So scroll.config, now we just do this. Okay, now what we will just do again will be our command. So we just do command. Okay, so the config method actually carries a parameter called the command. So the command actually contain your command, what you want to do. so you just do command. Now for this command we pass another option or another method. Okay, so I'll just say a method. So this options, then I'll add method. So I want to add everything I'm doing here so that it will be very simple. So method. Okay, now the method we are talking about is the x view and the y view. Okay, so these two views are used to, let's say, configure your list box using the scroll bar. So when you are passing the command, when you are passing a value to this command, it's between these two, which is the x view and the y view. So the x view is for the x scroll bar, which is the x scroll command. So when if this was x scroll command, we would have passed the x view here, we would have passed this, but here we are using the y scroll command, so we need the y view here. Okay, so here, so simple, here should be y view. Okay, now we won't add our parentheses, so it's just a command we are just doing here. So okay, let me actually add it here. I think I'm getting an error. Okay, so let me see. Unresolved reference y view. Okay, so okay, let me see. Okay, so I think I'm getting it now. Okay, so now let's see how this looks like. So let me run this code and see. Oh, I'm actually debugging it rather. Okay, so okay, it's still not working. I think there is a problem here. So let me actually change this. So let's go again. Okay, so okay, still a problem. Okay, so let me go. Okay, so what are we not doing right here? Okay, so I think what we are not doing right is that we are actually passing a method here, but we are not collecting the directory. Okay, so as I said, this is a method, so this is a method for the list box. So we actually need it to call, or we need to call it from the list box. Okay, so we have to call from the list box, so we just do the variable name we named for our list widget, so list box, then I'll say dot. Okay, so it should work now, I think, because what we actually saying is that the y view is actually a method in the list box, so we need to call it from the list box. Okay, so let me actually remove this parenthesis and go again. Okay, so we will just run it. So shift 5. Okay, so let's run this again. Okay, so let me go. Okay, so it's working now. Okay, so you have to actually be very attentive when you are actually doing this. So it's very simple, very simple. So at first I just created my list box, so it was just this list box, and I added my items using the dot insert here. Okay, so as you can see, I added my insert here. Now I just added a button. Okay, so this button, and what I did was passing a command here. Okay, so the command was the current location, so I could go to listbox.c. There's another method we can also look at, very important here. So I will say c, and I will say size, also size. Okay, so these two are very important. So the size actually tells you the number of items inside your list box, so that's the size. Okay, so I can pass it here. We have already seen how to use the c. So here should be list box, or let me use print, then I'll say list box, then I'll say dot size. Okay, so simple. Now, so as I was saying, first I created my list box. which was this one. So this one. Okay, now I packed it, or I created a frame to actually pack it. Now I created or I added my list. So I added my insert here. So these are my lists. Okay, then I added a button to actually get the current location. Okay, so it's not very important for the button. Then I went on to, let's say, add a scroll bar. So the scroll bar is actually very simple. First, you need two commands to actually do that. So after creating your scroll bar here, you actually need the options, the yscrollcommand option of the Listbox. Now you set your scroll, so by doing scroll.set, so the widget I actually created here, so scroll.set here to set your scroll bar inside your Listbox. Now what I did finally was configuring my scroll bar. So I just did config scroll.config command. So the command is the listbox.yview. Okay, so I think this is very simple. This is how to, let's say, merge these two. That's the list box and the scroll bar widget. So simple. So when you have a list and you want to use the scroll bar to actually scroll it down or scroll it up or scroll it horizontally. So as so this for the y direction. You can also do it for the x direction. So for the x direction, here should be x. Okay, here should be x, then here should be, you should use the xscrollcommand. So I will leave it for you to actually work on it. I won't be treating it here. So here should be the xscrollcommand, and you may think of just using this as, let's say, instead of right it should be bottom, so that it will be scrolling at the horizontal at the bottom, and here should also be the x, which is the horizontal. Okay, I think you love this video. If you loved it, just like my video, subscribe to my channel, and share it with your friends. Okay, so thank you for watching. I see you in the next video. Okay, so in the next video we are doing a powerful widget, which is the top level widget. Okay, so I know you will love it. So it's very informative and very good to know the top level widget in the Tkinter GUI. So it's very important when creating your softwares for desktops app. Okay, so this is where we end.